So I think for me, I want to start with taking risks, and I'm going to open up with a quote. So there's a quote out there that says, "When nothing is certain, anything is possible." Um, and I really, really, really believe that, especially when you talk about living an unpredictable life. For me, it's been very, very important for me to explore who I am. And in order to do that, you have to try a whole bunch of different stuff. And coming from where I come from, I really recognize like I didn't have the opportunities to do a lot of different things when I was growing up. My mom worked third shift. She was a single parent. I had to learn how to take care of myself. Had aunties and uncles move in with us, took care of younger cousins, like literally lived a straightforward life. I came home from school, I did my work, maybe went to practice if I was in season, came home, slept, did it all over again. If I looked at my college career, totally different. It was a goal for me to really, number one, see if I can gain the freshman 15. I just wanted to know if it was good. And so, I had a free meal plan. I ate all the time. And clearly that's risking high blood pressure and heart disease and stuff that you probably don't want to risk. But that really started opening me up to say, okay, well, I really like different foods. So I started exploring different cultural foods, which kind of made me start exploring different cultures, which now I'm a cultural educator. So kind of cultural competency is something that the work that we do is not easy. It's not for the sensitive heart. It's really, really tough stuff that we have to talk about, and we have to really talk in ways that can be harsh, it can be hard, that can be hard to hear. And that was a kind of a way for me to talk about how my passions, my background, my life has been changed by other people, by other people's stories, by other people's experiences. Next thing I want to talk about is pursuing your own happiness. So it's not like the pursuit of happiness, like in the Constitution, or is that in the Constitution? Like liberty and pursuit, yeah, Bill of Rights. That's, I'm clearly not the one who's governor or something like that. But pursuing your own happiness. So really being okay with what makes you happy. Like, that is a process. Especially when you have peer groups, you have family pressures, you have friends pressures, you have college and academic pressures. There can be a lot that stops you from just doing the one thing that you want to try to do. I'm here to tell you, do not put that barrier in between yourself. Like, I really believe the worst thing that you can do in this unpredictable life is be predictable. It's doing things that people think you should be doing, because that's their perspective. That's not your perspective. And so really being able to be okay with you saying, like, I love scuba diving, and I'm going to do that once a week, every week for the whole summer. And don't let anybody get in the way of that. Because there will be people who say, well, come on, you can just go out one time. If you were an athlete and you had to work out, you had to work out to be better. You had to do that. You didn't let anybody get away with that. And if you did, you saw that part of your performance on the field or the court or whatever athletic sport you did drop a little bit. Don't be that person. Be the person who's steadfast, who is believing that what you're doing is going to take you somewhere. And that kind of leads me to the last thing. Speak it into existence. Even when, and I would say I had a nice transition into this world called professionalism. It was a lot of rude awakenings. But even when I was having a bad day, I would tell people I was living the dream. Even when things was not like the dream. Even when I couldn't even clearly articulate what the dream was, I still said, I'm living the dream with a smile on my face. Because that helped me pull myself out of a space that wasn't helping me live the dream. I would just tell that to people. But I wanted that. I knew I wanted it. I knew I needed it. Coming from the community I come from, really what made me want to do that is seeing the different houses around my neighborhood. Like if you go up 4 or 5 blocks down, it was like huge houses, and I knew I wanted one. I was like, that's gonna be the start. That's what helped me go to college. That's what helped me start figuring out what kind of career path I wanna go. It helped me kind of figure out what kind of salary I wanted to make. And also it helped me figure out how much I feel like I'm worth. Because I don't negotiate that. That's my work. And I don't change that for anyone.
Well, there's a few things that I wanted to say, and then I want to tell you a story. But I would say knowing yourself is absolutely critical. And both these guys kind of said that in their own way. Finding your passion is so important. And that's, you talked about changing majors 5 times. You do it till you find your passion, because that will get you through life so much better. Setting goals, knowing where you want to go in the future, and I have to do a shout out to my communication background, learning to communicate well to serve you in every way possible. But I really want to tell you a story, because every job that I ever got in advancing my life all came down to one idea. There's a line in the play Wicked that says, people come into our life for a reason. And we don't always know what that reason is at the time, but we do later. And one of the things, I'll turn 66 next month, and one of the things that I look back on is how this happened, and then that happened because this happened, and then that happened because that happened, and you don't see it at the time. You don't see that connection at the time, but it's there. So I want to tell you about when they asked me not to come back to high school, because this really changed my life. So that summer was a terrible summer, because I was not going to be able to come back to my school that I dearly loved, and had to start in a new high school where I knew nobody, and my family went there, but I didn't really know anybody. And over the summer, on several occasions, my dad, who had gone to my high school, would call them and say, he's in summer school, he's making up the classes he failed, can't he come back? And all summer they said, no, he can't come back. We're sorry, that's our policy. You can't come back. We don't change our policy. And so it was a terrible summer. It was the worst summer of my life. And I learned something from that. From failure can come success, and then you appreciate it more. So the summer went on, and it was a terrible summer and just horrid. And Labor Day weekend, we went out of town, and we came back, and the phone was ringing. And my dad picked it up, and in a house full of teenagers, that's really unusual. And he picked it up, and he nodded his head and, kind of, oh, okay, okay. And he gets off the phone and he says, they're taking you back. Now, I'd already registered at that other high school, already got my books, already made the mistake of wearing my letter jacket to the high school, in which case, they were all, giving me grief because of that. And I thought it was a dream. And they said, no, they're taking you back. So the next day, instead of walking off to this high school, I went up to the corner and hitchhiked down to my other high school, because that's how I got there. It was 7 miles away. And I went in, and boy, did I behave well for a long time. Because I thought they had screwed up. I really did. I thought they made a big mistake, because they made a point they're never letting me back in. And about 2 months later, after I figured out, okay, I'm far enough along, they're going to let me stay, I went into my counselor. And this is the hard part to talk about. I went into my counselor and I said, why am I back? And they said, well, because the Friday before Labor Day weekend, we had a meeting with all the staff. And we talked about who wasn't coming back, and most weren't coming back because they moved. And then your name came up, and they talked about you weren't coming back because you failed 2 classes, and we explained what happened. And Bill Watts, the band director, it's so hard to talk about, said, you got to let him back in. He's a good kid. He wasn't good in math and science, understood, but he made them up in summer school, and you got to let him back in. He never told me that. I played in the band for him. He never told me that story. But if it wasn't for Bill Watts, I would not be here today. So what I learned is there are people that will change your life. And embrace those people, because it will make such a difference in your life. And not just embrace them, but find people like that in your life that will give your life meaning and give it power. And be with those people. Stay away from the negative. Stay with those kind of people. and develop the kind of networks, because every one of those jobs I told you about that I got was because I knew someone or someone knew someone who knew me, and there was a connection to a connection to a connection to a connection to a connection. Every one of those jobs. And so you don't do a network only to get a network and to get ahead, although that's, you know, a really good thing. But surround yourself with people who care about you and appreciate you and love you and will do good things for you, because they will change your life. And I wouldn't be here without Bill Watts. True story.
And I wouldn't be here without Grandma Vera, who told me if you just keep asking questions and reading those books, you can do anything you want to do, even though nobody else would possibly envision the things that lay ahead. So your story, Pat, reminded me of a different story. I mean, my mom and my grandma loved me equally, but when I called my mom at the age of 36 or so, and I'd gotten into a doctoral program at Boston, I was so excited. And my mom's response was, "Why do you keep doing these things to yourself? When are you ever going to stop and just enjoy your life and stop putting yourself through things like this?" And I was so upset. She said, you're gonna be 40 years old when you finish this thing. And I thought, oh, okay, all right, let that call go. And so I'm talking to my husband later, and my husband, who's been in my life for a long time, said, so now let me get this straight. Unless I miss something, unless you get hit by a truck, you're going to turn 40 in about 3-4 years anyway, right? And I said, yeah. He said, so the only thing really on the table here is, are you going to turn 40 with a doctorate degree or without a doctorate degree? And I bring that up because having people in your life who get you is important. You know, my mom and my grandmother love me. My grandma got me. My husband, I think, gets me too. And you need those people, and they may not be family. They may be people that you encounter here. They may be people other places. Couple of other little things. I am the firmest believer on the planet that you've got to love what you do. And the minute you decide you're a little restless with it, doesn't mean you stop loving it. I still love teaching 8th grade. But I'm not there now because I became restless with that, and I went on to do something else. And then I became a little restless with that, and I went on to do something else. My kids now laugh, and they say, you've been in the honors college 5 years. When are you going to change jobs? And I said, well, you're right. My attention span's shorter now because I'm older, but I'm kind of liking what I'm doing, so I'm not going anywhere for a while. But you got to love what you do. Hang out in things that you love, because you figure out what you love, and it will convert to something that will pay your bills. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I have no patience with people who say, I'm so burned out on my job. Fine, do something else. You know, you're getting the hardest degree you'll ever get right now. Those of you who are doing an undergrad degree, because it's soup to nuts. Some things you love, some things you don't. You get 120 credits. You can maneuver that degree upward, downward, laterally with a year. You can get a master's degree in a completely different area and do something completely different. It's giving you a platform to do anything you want to do. And the last thing I'll talk about is, as a part of my doctoral work, I was working with teacher leaders, trying to figure out what made them tick. And we did everything, demographics, everything, figure out what was going on there. And then I discovered a personality scale that measures experiential openness. It goes from experiential open to experientially closed. Experientially closed doesn't mean you're evil, it means you like routine, right? And we need people who like routine, because we like trains and buses and stuff that run on time. But people who are experientially open are much more willing to say, gosh, I did it right that way twice. What would happen if I did this instead? Or they go to the restaurant and they know what they love, but they think, that looks kind of interesting, I should try that. Or maybe I should just, for the heck of it this year, try to figure out how to get to Europe. Yeah, something, you're always mixing it up a little bit. I think that being open to new experiences is like maybe one of the most important things that I can recommend. And with that, I'm going to invite you, we're going to invite you to do a little more sharing. We want you now, if you would, look back at your sheet, because this time you have to share. And we want you to think about, out of all you've heard and all you've personally experienced, what do you think, looking forward in the next year or 2 or 5, what do you think are strategies or traits or skills you need to develop further to be able to navigate your own very unpredictable life? Jot down 1 or 2 or 3 things. And as you do it, be thinking about how you develop those skills. Do you need to become more experientially open? What do you do to make yourself do that? Do you decide you want to build your leadership skills? What are you going to do about that? Take about 2 minutes.
Is there anybody who would like to share what they came up with for this? The skills that they want to work on developing? Yeah.
I would say the biggest skill I'm going to have to master in my immediate future is going to be financial discipline.
Who on the panel would like to be the expert on that to share with everybody how to do that?
As it so happens, I'm in a situation where I've actually finished college classes and I'm working on finishing my honors requirements. And I've already landed that job that everybody is trying to get at after college, that first salary job, the one that will help you pay your bills. And now my paychecks are 3 times larger than I've ever seen before. And I was saying that it's really, really hard to not just go out and buy the toys that I want. Like, oh, I want to PS4. Oh, I can just eat out tonight. I don't have to grocery shop. Oh, I can go see my friends in Ohio. You know, it doesn't matter. But trying to save money because in 6 months my loan's deferment ends, and I'm going to have really big payments to make. So it's hard to see your bank account growing and knowing that that money is already spoken for.
Valid concerns. Well, I mean, as far as like comments, I guess for somebody who's recently gone through that, well, I'm trying to hypnotize the microphone. I think the best advice that I was given was that try to live the same lifestyle you had in college for at least a year. And that should help at least keep the extravagant from like going out and taking on something significant from. And also I think in terms of, I think that's a really good point, in terms of you have a chance now to maybe do things, whether it be get a new car, maybe get a house, and these things. And so fully understanding what those commitments will be, and then I think being cognizant of the fact that, oh yeah, some of this money is already claimed for. So maybe else from the panel want to jump in on financial decisions?
So I definitely have a different approach than John. He's a lot more fiscally responsible than me.
I'm good at the image.
Yeah, my advice would be no reoccurring debts. So, you know, I would, in the first year, I wouldn't get a new car, I wouldn't get a new, you know, anything like that. But I would totally blow all the extra money that you have. In the first year, it's a very rare opportunity to get a salary position. It's almost a privilege. It is a privilege, especially coming from low socioeconomic status, hourly type of positions. And you know, when I was in college, we was making $5.15. That was like the minimum wage. I won't ask you all. But you know, that first year is a really good opportunity to travel, really good opportunity to see friends that you haven't seen. When those loans kick in, that's why I say don't do anything reoccurring, because your budget is huge. Then that loan come in, and they always overestimate how much you actually should be paying. So it's like, you got an extra $300, but they're gonna ask you for like $1,500 a month. And it's like, that's not even realistic. Like, that's more than a condo, one-bedroom condo in like New York. So you know, that would be be my advice. Definitely have fun within the first year, but definitely do not take on anything recurring.
Yeah.
I think something I really need to improve on to live a more unpredictable life is confidence. I think especially all like the little things in making decisions every single day and then on a larger scale, because I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with my life. And just kind of be more confident in my decision making.
I think it's.
Well, I think, well, first of all, I'd say take speech classes, but besides that, the confidence, it comes from doing things and becoming successful at them. And so it's little things that you are successful at, and then you gain a little confidence, and then you do something else and a little bit more and a little bit more. So it's a progressive kind of thing. It's not something that just is going to come automatically, but find those things that you can be successful at, and that will give you that sense of confidence. Not everybody is going to be an All-American football player, and everybody that plays Pee Wee football all gets a trophy at the end of the year, whether they sat on the bench or not. That doesn't do anything to build confidence. It just makes you realize after a while, I really didn't earn anything. I was just given something. And at the time it seems good, but later on in life you go, I was just given that. That's just crazy. So just do little things that will lead to more and more confidence, and it will come. It's progressive. Dar was saying before we were talking about that he wished that he had the confidence and took risks when he was younger that he now has. But he's 30. I mean, he's been through the wars. He's almost an old guy. But you have to do those little things. Yeah.
I'll also say success breeds confidence.
Yes.
And I think so often we're just jumping from one thing to the next. We get this thing that's done and it's good, and then instead of savoring that, like we savor a good meal, right? Instead of savoring it, you're jumping to the next thing. Then I've got to do this, and then I've got to do this, the other thing. You draw a beautiful picture, savor the fact that you created that. You write something you're really proud of, even if it's 5 lines. Good poets will hold on to that. Somebody said earlier, stay in the moment, and enjoy the moments that you're in and build your confidence through the accomplishments of those things one by one.
I'm not prepared for failure. My whole life I've worked hard to achieve what I want. Like I see something I want it and I work hard for it to succeed to get it. And I'm not prepared for when I give everything I have for failure. Like, what if it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to? Like, I'm not prepared for that.
So a couple of things. I am the world's worst novice. I hate being a beginner at anything. I hate not being able to do it well to start with. But one of the things I've conditioned myself to do is to look at things now, and I've done it a whole lot very recently. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. What
is the absolute worst that can happen, and unpack it? I had a teacher once who said, I've seen disaster, this isn't it. We sometimes catastrophize, if I can make up a word. We make things bigger than they are, more frightening than they are, and then we shy away from them. So if you're facing something and you're afraid that you're going to fail at it, really, what's the worst that can happen? You might get embarrassed for a moment. You can lose weight up with any teacher forever, right? You may take a class. You may have to withdraw from a class someday. You may take a class and fail a class and have to take that class again to get rid of that grade. I mean, what is the worst that can happen? And I think when at least for me, when I wrap my head around that, it doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean I won't cry, because sometimes I do, because I get so frustrated and so upset by things, but it doesn't mean I don't do it either, because if I let that one failure tell me, no, you can never do that again, you can never take that kind of chance again, then life's not fun anymore, right?
And I just want to follow up with that, because I think a lot of honors college students have the same experience. Teaching honors college and non-honors college, I see a different tone in the honors college classes I teach. Tremendous desire to be perfect, And my students know you can't be, but you can be what?
Damn
Good. And, but not perfect. I think a lot of that is height of the self-esteem, is that we see if we fail that somehow our self-esteem is diminished. And I understand that because I was there too, and I think all of us have been there and we understand it. I think as you get older, you start to understand that when you fail, it's an opportunity to succeed in a different way. And you start to not, I wouldn't say you embrace it, you seek it, but I think you understand it and you accept it. And you really can't appreciate success unless you've had failure. You really can't. And I would just tell you, the older you get, the more you can understand that failure is part of life, and if you don't risk anything, and you don't take the chance to fail, you're never really going to truly grow. It's easy to say when you're older. I understand what you were like because I was there when I was young too. But it will get better.
Yeah, I just want to add to it as lead with a quote is to make a mistake is to be human, and that's something that I take very very to heart. And I think about like airplanes and the Wright brothers. Like how many times did they have to fail? You think about the Ford Motor Company and cars. Like how many times did that wheel come off before they could actually get a drivable vehicle? Even thinking about small products like Gatorade that we drink every day, like how many times did they have to test that before they came to a final product? That's how we all are. We're just testing who we are until we get to that final product of who we want to be. So continue to test. Just continue to test yourself.
That's just such a good question. That was just when you first said that, I was thinking about how more research just points to people who find more happiness in life or are more successful in life had faced adversity earlier in their life. And so I think to Pat's point as far as like this idea of like always being pat on the back and congratulations. But I mean, even right now, as you're sitting here, if you look back at your life, some of your most meaningful experiences, maybe the most meaningful experience, may have been a situation where you came through adversity. And I just think, related to that, I mean, so again, I think as far as one of the morals of the story is to be okay with failing and like finding that, I think back to when I started advising, and I bring this one up because Becky remembers right when I started doing advising. And I remember sitting down at my very first fast track, and I think probably a lot of you remember your fast track experience, or hopefully your fast track experience. I remember my first fast track experience advising, and oh my goodness. I guess Becky remembers that day as far as not sure if I was going to come back the next day. Just thinking about, oh my God, I just saw all these students with all these different programs. How am I ever going to do this? I could have made all these mistakes. And I say that where in my job, for those of you who I've worked with, if I make mistakes, that means you can be in wrong classes. That can mean that you're doing the wrong programs of study. And for me, as far as like the idea of being okay with failure, I think that's a good thing to come away with. But I think this comes back to when you find something that you love, you do it with 100% effort and you give it everything you got. So I remember when I came away from my first fast track experience, I remember the next day, that day I felt pretty beat up, thinking, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to learn all these programs here at EMU? And I stayed up that night until midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, looking at that catalog, looking at these programs, learning these. And so by God, in general, I should say you're good at advice, that's one thing, but being able to say that I'm going to be the best, that has always been my goal since I've been here. I'm going to be the best advisor at EMU. And I think that's what every single advisor here at EMU has to say with what they do. And so I would say take that as far as if you know that you gave it your best because you wanted to be the best at something, and you start to measure your success or failure based on your effort, not on external results, I think that's where you'll find that you'll be okay with the results no matter what.
I gotta say, I think like you and Molly Ware are the only two human beings in the entire world who've read the EMU calendar.
We try. Maybe one more. Yeah, Scotty.
See, you and I have been advising appointments, and so this is a little reminded to that. We'll see how this goes. So I'm in a position where I know what I love to do. I love to draw, and I love to write, and if I may, I'm damn good at both. So I think there are a couple things that I need to prepare for in order to, deal with the unpredictability of life. The first one being I gotta market myself. Like, look at all this cool stuff I can do. But wherever that may take me, I also have to be better at planning on not having an adult plan. So I'm not as disappointed when when things don't work out, and I'm really not good at that, and that terrifies me. Not knowing what I want to do with my skills, that's something that's really scary.
I think the best advice I can give you is to not do nothing, to do something, to choose something. Because a lot of times we always looking for that perfect opportunity, the thing that's gonna make us $1 million, right? Make us a millionaire. Not recognizing in order to make $1 million, you have to make $1 first. And it's very, very, very rare that you're just gonna find that perfect opportunity with the perfect networks, and every person that's kind of in that place is gonna help you learn and shape who you are. So you have to go to a space to find something that's gonna shape you, and something that's gonna give you an opportunity to open doors for everything else. And so that's how you really start. So if you like writing, choose writing. You have to choose it, and then pursue it. And then you never know how the door to drawing might open through writing or vice versa.
I think the most important thing to remember is it's not linear. We have this sense in our head that everything is times linear, everything's linear, I do this, everything else, I'm negating all these other possibilities. I don't know how to describe it. It's more like life is a fractal, right? I mean, there's just all these possibilities. And because you choose one thing, may mean that you don't do that one next, but it may mean it leads you to something over here you never even saw before, right? So it's all these dots are out there, and I look back and there is, some of it is just, even looking back, it's kind of an amazing thing that this conversation at a table in Chicago with a now retired professor from Arizona took me to a professor at Eastern who introduced me to a job opening in a school I'd never heard of, in a city I'd never heard of, in a state I didn't even necessarily want to hear anything about, you know? And it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And so, I mean, there's no explaining that kind of thing. So I think part of it is trusting that, this sounds so woo-woo, I'm sorry, but the universe provides. You know, you start saying, okay, you know, I'm going to do this work. I'm going to get good at it. I'm ready for the next step. I don't know what it is. Bring it on. You know, and I just think there's something about the cosmos that takes care of that. You know, as long as you're open to new experiences, you're willing to put your best shot, your best work out there, connections happen. They just happen. So,
Yeah, just say, well, is there any other questions or statements? Otherwise, I think a round of applause to for me, I get to work with Becky every day. I get to see how much effort and work she puts into making the honors experience that all of you have in our honors college, including the Star Honors series. I know how much effort is put into this from her. So can we have a round of applause specifically for Becky? And I think with that, we have a drawing for.
we also have cards out there. So while I'm reading you a final poem, you know, I can't help it. I'm being I can't get over that. So I've got one more poem. If you will pass your green cards, if you are an honor student particularly, you need to get those out here really fast, because tonight's the night we do our drawing for our free trip to Stratford in October. And this year is the first weekend in October, so all of you get the first notice of that. So we'll have our moment of chaos. Moment of chaos, I'll have to down. And we're going to be picking it out. Gotta ask, while you're doing that, how many of you made it to all 6-star lectures? Oh my word, wow. That is amazing. All right, email me discovery, but a process of creation. You are discovering yourself, but creating yourself anew. Seek therefore not to find out who you are, but seek instead to determine who you want to be. And with that, we're having a little drawing here. Who's going to be our person? Dar. Dar? Dar just rumbling around there. So every time you came, you have a card in there. We collected the cards the entire year. So some of you who have been here 6 times have 6 opportunities to win.
I don't know if she's good, but go ahead and call it out.
Chelsea Lobb.
Chelsea? Lobb? All right.
Need not be present to win.
So with that, one last thing for you. Next year's STAR lecture, we had such a good time this year with the Pursuing a Life Well Lived, and we've heard from some really wonderful people. But next year we need your help. We would like to know who you would like to hear from. And so you have your program. If you don't want to take your program, you're welcome to leave it right up here or pass it up. But we want your recommendations. Which professors or staff members would you like to have do a STAR lecture next year? I promise you, you make a recommendation, I'll follow through with them. It doesn't mean they'll say yes, but it means that we'll check with them and see what we can do. So with that, thank you so very